Alright, book nerds, we have a fun episode for you all today. On this episode of the podcast, we'll be speaking with the director and writer of the film Poor Greg Drowning, and the film's lead actor. This film follows the story of Greg, who has hit a low point in his life. His girlfriend has left him for their couples therapist, and he's depressed, heartbroken, unemployed, and is left paying the rent for the apartment. He has to find a roommate, but Greg scares away all potential roommates, except for a girl named Peyton, who moves in and whom Greg falls madly in love with. So without any more waiting, let's get to it. Alright, book nerds, we are now speaking with the lead actor, the director, and the writer. Jeff is the director and writer of Poor Greg Drowning, and Graham is our lead actor. Thank you for both joining us today for the podcast. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
So for our listeners, would you please each introduce yourselves properly and tell us about the film?
Graham Lamb, take it off.
My name is Graham Sibley, and I play Greg in Poor Greg Drowning. What else did you ask?
Introduce yourself, tell us what what your involvement in the film, and tell us a little bit about the film.
Yeah. So, this film it's a romantic comedy about
He forgot already. let me help him. I've only been thinking about this movie for half a decade.
Can we start over?
Not a chance.
This is Jeff Collins, the writer-director of the film. Yes, in Poor Greg Drowning, Graham nailed it. It's a romantic comedy. An edgy R-rated romantic comedy that is about an aspiring writer who's 35 years old who happens to be a love addict. And he is devastated, heartbroken, and depressed because he recently proposed to his longtime girlfriend, and she admitted that she's cheating on him with her couples therapist. So he's devastated. She moves out, and he's stuck in this 2-bedroom apartment and a 2-year lease that he can't afford. So he desperately needs a roommate. The problem is he's a little socially awkward, and he's in a very bad place. So he scares off all potential people who come to check out the apartment until this girl moves in off of a Craigslist post from Chicago. And the second Greg sees her, he falls madly in love with her. So it's what ensues after that.
So I'm curious, you say this has been a project you've been thinking about for like half a decade. Is that normal for a project to span that long? And what was your motivation and for making it, and what took you from wanting to make it to finally making it?
Yes. So the reason it was so long is because it began as a short film that was in June 2015, I believe. So I was working with John Hamburg, who was the third director that I worked for and assisted. And I saw Mark Dublas's speech at South by Southwest, where he was like, listen, there's no reason you shouldn't be shooting every weekend on your iPhones. And I was like, damn it, Mark, you're right. It had been like 3 years since I directed something on my own. I was writing features and assisting directors on their projects, but it had been a while since I shot something. So that night, I thought of this 5-minute short film and wrote it and sent it to Graham, who I had met on a film we worked on together, Grow House, the year before. When I wrote the character, I immediately thought of Graham, so I sent it his way. He read it. He was game. We shot it that weekend, and it was just going to be a short film, but I loved the character, and we got into some good festivals, and I was like, let me just keep writing this. So I wrote a feature script. Wrote a feature script, and then I was like, maybe we just shoot this when we can on the weekends and put it out as a comedy web series. So we did that for about a year. I was assisting John on a movie we did called Why Him. and we would shoot sparingly on the weekends whenever we could. And after a year, we had shot about 44 pages of the 100-page script. And I was like, all right, how cheap could we possibly finish this for as a full feature? And so we came up with a number that was startlingly, Jesus Christ, very low. It was a low number. And we did. We shot, I think it was 6 more days of shooting, and we finished principal photography in September 2016. And so from that point on, I did a cut of the film myself, and then I brought on a great editor, Michelle Gold, who did a cut as well. And we did about a year of editing whenever we could. She was working on Curb Your Enthusiasm, I believe, and I had a day job in development at Hasbro at the time. And yes, we edited for about a year, and then we started submitting to film festivals. And we got into festivals, and we kept fine-tuning the cut, and we were playing a rough cut at all these festivals for about a year and a half. And then we figured out, and we would try different things at the festivals, different things with the cuts, and then we realized we wanted a narrator for the film that would take place over these animations that occur throughout the film. So I sent it to Cedric the Entertainer, who I worked with on Why Him and built a great relationship with, and he was down. So he came on, I think it was spring 2019, did 2 hours of ADR, and then we found our distributor last July, finished the film in March, and now it's finally coming out in August. So from shooting the short, that was June 2015, to it coming out was half a decade of just super easy.
So what you're saying is the process was pretty quick, easy, and straightforward.
It was very normal. Didn't really take much blood, sweat, and tears at all.
So Graham, I mean, Jeff just kind of gave us a little bit about how you got involved, but I'm curious, when you got the script, what drew you in? What was attractive to you in the role, and what were your thoughts when you were coming on board for this?
Well, I just really responded to the fact that he was just so lonely and desperate and pathetic, and that Jeff thought of me. That he thought, man, there is no one else. Yeah. There is no one else out there who is so desperate and pathetic and lonely and can express that so easily.
Well, what Graham doesn't know is that I actually just met Graham and then thought of the character. It wasn't the other way around.
He didn't even know me. I just must radiate this. I just have an aura of desperate, lonely, pathetic. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's exactly, I mean, that's how I live my life. And so it's how I go through my life. So I was just waiting for Jeff, for this man to come on board and help me through the next 5 years.
So Graham, I'm curious to dive in a little bit deeper on that. Did you make any suggestions about, as you were either reading the script or learning more about the character, about, how things should be done, in the script, how things should be said, how he performs, or did you trust Jeff more with the direction of that and taking, because I know a lot of times actors, they really kind of get into the roles and they're like, no, I don't think the character would react this way or do this or say this. Was there anything like that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this was a very collaborative process where, we had a template of the script was fully there, but it was changing as we were going, and we would shoot the script, and then we would shoot, an additional 45 minutes of like, let's just try this and let's try that, and I think that was really a memorable part of this experience was Jeff's freedom the freedom that he allowed me and also the other cast members to just kind of riff and just kind of go for it. And like so much gold came out of that. And so yeah, we had like a template, and then as we would shoot over the years, we would email back and forth like, okay, we're going to shoot scene 32, like this is what's going to happen in the scene, and then we would toss that back and forth and kind of like riff on things there, and then we'd kind of agree to kind of shoot that and then try this and try that. So it was kind of like there was a lot of synergy that went along to the shooting process and to the development of the whole thing. But in terms of like, I'm kind of kidding about. I'm not really kidding about being lonely and desperate and pathetic. Like, I mean, it was a huge part of my life, going through breakups, and getting through that chapter of my life. I think that's part of the heart of this film too. Is that I think being a dude and in the arts and being around, hot girls and wanting to, try to have relationships and move forward with your life. Like, you run into people who don't necessarily see the same life as you do. And so that's when breakups happen. And I was very familiar with that.
I mean, I can't agree with you more on that. I mean, I watched the film. I really enjoyed it. And I think, as kind of as sad as it is, the overall premise and everything, it's something that so many people can actually relate to.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know which breakup I could talk about. You know what I mean? It's all the same. And I think everyone goes through this. And I think that's it. I think that's what the heart of this film is all about, is like how, and I think the other thing, this cool thing about this film is that, I think sometimes men aren't supposed to be like lonely and pathetic and desperate. Like, and we are, and we all feel things like that. And I think that's Greg is just, just crank it up a little,
Slightly.
Yeah.
So now, since this, became from a short film to a kind of a web series to a feature film, and it kind of grew in size and scope. I mean, I've been on small short film sets before, and you have, a ton of crew. Was this, when you got to the feature films aspect of making this, did you maintain did you try to keep it a small crew? How, did you have, 50 people on set? I mean, what was that like?
I think it was like Avatar, Avengers type level once we really geared it up to the full feature. Yes, no. The very small throughout. So on the short film, let me jog my memory because it's been a minute, but I think it was literally Phil Sabal, our DP. For that shoot, we didn't even have we had like a mic on the camera, no lights.
Oh no, Greg, no, Jeff. Remember, I used my cell phone as an extra channel
audio?
Of sound. Yeah, extra audio.
That's all you need to know about this shoot. But so it was literally like that, and then once it got to shooting what we thought was going to be a web series, so we never actually put it out as a web series. But when we were thinking that, it was usually most days our DP, which was either Phil Sabal or Ray Wangchinda, and a sound person, and literally that's it. I think when we shot the 6 days, when we were technically a feature, there was a couple days where we had a hair makeup person, production designers, first ADs, some great PAs that helped out. But I think our biggest day was probably when we shot in the Venice house, which is the last house in the movie. maybe the crew was 10 people.
And the cast was 10.
And the cast was 10. Yeah, for that day, it was like everybody from the cast. So yeah, it was a very, very indie shoot, which for me, I mean, we were doing that while I was working on a big, massive studio film, and it just reminded me like growing up as a kid with a camera, like begging people to be in these little short films. It felt very familial that way, and familial and familiar.
Gotcha. So real bare bones skeleton crew feel for this project.
Totally.
But when you look at the final product of it, and you see like what Jeff has done with the sort of the poster and the marketing and the trailer and the whole vibe of it, you can totally feel the influence of all of this studio stuff that Jeff has been associated with, and how he really learned from that process and implemented it into something that did not have any support like that. And I think it's really such a feat of production to do that, and because you don't see this kind of film all that often, an independent romantic comedy that is done with a broad sense of humor. And so yeah, I'm just kudos to Jeff. I mean, he's a real warrior, man.
Well, and Graham is a true partner in this movie, like to the core, and everyone like a lot of the cast members Graham brought on. I mean, our cast is fantastic. The crew members that we did have were all amazing, and everybody was doing this because they loved the project. It wasn't to make a lot of money. And we had a lot of favors. We had Company 3 did the color, and normally their budget for Company 3 is 10 times the budget for our entire feature. So we just had a lot of people helping out that really elevated it to another level than it had any right being.
Nice. No, it's awesome that you were able to work with a company like Company 3, because I as I had said before, I've worked in the industry, and I know some studios sometimes the budget that price tags that they charge for doing their work can be definitely can be up there. So
yeah.
So typically when making a short film or a feature film, especially, not always, but a lot of times they run into unforeseen issues or problems that you didn't expect. I'm curious if you ran into any issues like that, or was everything kind of like pretty straightforward, smooth sailing since it had been in development for so long?
That is a good question. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest in terms of issues were our hurdles was just having, we didn't really have a budget, so being really resourceful. Time, I think our total shoot days once you add everything up were about 14. So those were the biggest hurdles, and then getting clearances afterward, and just being strapped for resources was pretty much the biggest hurdle. And you would think shooting, because we finished principal photography in September 2016, but we did pickups all through up until like probably 2018. Maybe even 19. And I said this before, but it's astonishing that Graham looked the same throughout it. Like you would watch, I mean, you could be watching the movie, like one scene and the next was probably shot 4 years apart. But Graham, you wouldn't even know. So
I never would have guessed.
A true feat, if you ask me.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the biggest challenges I think for me in this was shooting something over such a long period of time, because traditionally when you shoot something, you shoot in a much shorter window, and though you're shooting out of sequence, you're still arcing a performance, and this was so disjointed that I didn't really get a sense of. I could never really get a rhythm of arcing Greg's performance, because as we were shooting, things would change, and we would do like he said, it was 4 years later, and I've done like a bunch of other stuff, plays and films and all these things I was working on at the same time or in conjunction with, but like I think that was a big challenge. It would be interesting. This film has such a heart to it, but it would be really interesting to go back and see if we could make this film in 14 days and see what all in consecutive, shooting schedule. And because I think for me, I would like to be able to arc a performance in a little bit more of with a little more cohesion. So much of it is held into the hands of the editor, and that's awesome and everything. But I think as an actor, and I'm also just a better actor 5 years later. Like I've just done so much more. So there's those elements, I think, which are I don't know if it's challenging, but just sort of looking back on it,
Yeah, and another example of Graham being an incredible partner on this, like literally every time I would finish a new cut of the film, I would send it to Graham, like literally scenes or posters or like, so everything that he was talking about before, I ran everything by Graham, and he gave great notes, and so that's why it truly is a partnership that is so rare. Like and there was something like, we did have an opportunity. We were like, do we reshoot everything now that we have some money and like get a better camera and this and that? And we decided like the short film is essentially the first scene of the movie. It's just cut down in a couple of minutes, but we thought we would just keep the look, even though it's not supposed to be some incredible looking film. I kind of liked the way we were doing it, because it just kind of embodied itself, and I think kept it unique in the heart of it. But yeah, it would have been interesting if we actually had a real like 2-week shoot to shoot it and see the difference. But yeah.
Jeff, I have a question for you. What did you learn as a director working on this film? Like what will you bring? Like what will you bring from this experience on to the next film that you do?
Graham, that's a great question.
You guys don't even need me at this point.
No. Honestly, I haven't been
fascinated.
No, that's fantastic. That's a good question. This was the first, what Graham was talking about earlier, of like shooting as scripted and then going 40 minutes with the actors just improvising a lot, and then I would throw some random stuff out to them. That was the first time I did that, because I had learned that from John Hamburg on Why Him, and that's why I love comedy so much, because you just really truly find a lot of magic in the moment. Going forward, and what I learned from this, damn, it's a really good question. I'm trying not to stall here. I think it is.
You can come back to it. You can come
I was
back
like,
to
we
it.
can come back to this question.
Yeah.
I'm even interested in this now.
No, I gotta think on that. That's really good.
Commercial break, part 2.
Exactly.
You can edit this, right?
We'll move on to my next question, which is we can throw this to Graham. on the flip side of the unforeseen issues and stuff like that, what was your most fun scene to film? Obviously, without giving anything away, but what's your most fun scene or most memorable moment from shooting?
Oh man. Wow. I think the makeout scene and the making out by myself scene. Those were that whole couch sequence was.
Don't give away too much stuff.
I won't.
Yeah.
But that I'll never forget that sequence.
I know, as someone who has seen the film, I know exactly what you're talking about. And just envisioning that happening on set must have, like, I can only imagine, like, everyone just trying their best not to be laughing.
Yeah.
It was so fun. It was that whole thing was really fun. So yeah, I think I'll probably never do that again, you know?
I mean, never say never. You never know what a role will call for.
Yep. Yeah.
What about you, Jeff? What was your favorite scene to direct and film?
A few come to mind. One is the opening scene, the short, because that was just, I don't know. We just found that was the introduction of this whole journey and finding Greg, and then another scene is where Greg is naked, face down on the ground. Graham and I got to know each other really well but also when he was sitting on the couch in that scene with Jules, his sister, who's played by one of my best friends, Sarah Baldwin, he was drinking real beer and sipping real beer. It's an example of Grant. Like, he was sipping beer off the ground. That was really happening. And
I was it was a full 40, and I think I drank 2 40s at 10 o'clock in the morning.
He was hammered.
I was hammered.
That's dedication.
He was really hammered. And then, like, the scene with Hector where the trainer, where Greg throws up, that was an example of, it was literally 4 of us. We had nobody in props, no props, and we were like, what does puke look like? So we just walked over to the kitchen, grabbed a bunch of shit from the fridge, stirred it up in a bowl, and Graham was like, I'm down, and just put it in his mouth. And it was like,
but I was also hammered.
Yeah. We shot that right after. And then another example of people just being troopers in this movie, the second workout scene with Hector and Jules, the sister, Sarah was scheduled to have hip, not a replacement, but some massive surgery on her hip the next week. And I had them doing, I hope I don't get, like, in trouble for this, but I had them doing, like, burpee lunges, like, an hour, and then she had her surgery, and everything went smoothly, just in case I can get in trouble.
It's funny, someone commented on that vomit scene recently, and they said, Graham, was that real vomit? Yeah. And I said, no, it wasn't. And I said, wow, it really looked like that was vomit. The vomit is fine, but it's actually because I'm actually sweating, and I'm actually pretty drunk from, like, the scene before.
Yeah, it was
a true amazing method actor.
Right, but I mean, but I think I'm like, I'm doing another interview where I'm typing it up, but I'll steal from that. Getting Graham as your lead is like winning the NBA lottery, where you get, like, the top pick. Because Graham is insanely talented, the best person ever, super funny, and will just, like, incredible improv, and will just do anything. Like, for example, be face down, ass naked, sucking beer off the carpet, and then next scene, do that vomit scene with, like, just a bunch of shit in his mouth. Like, yeah, pretty amazing. Pretty amazing.
My mom's gonna be so proud.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic.
Well, thanks.
I hope that gave you some time, Jeff, to think about your answer a little bit.
Cast Graham in everything I do. Boom.
There we go. Great. I think that's a fantastic answer.
Wow, I'm honored.
Yeah.
I'm honored.
If you will have me. You will have me.
Of course, my God, anything. I mean, Jeff, you've already had me take off all my clothes and lick beer off the ground.
That's true. That's true. We can only
I've
go
done it
up
all.
from here.
So-
That's true.
Was everything filmed for this on location, or were there any like special sets or anything designed? Because I know, to not give anything away, if I remember correctly, there are some underwater shots. So I'm curious how that was filmed. Did you have to rent like an underwater cage for the camera, or did you, how did you go about doing some of that stuff?
Yeah, everything was literally just shooting. Greg's apartment was my apartment. Everything in the movie was just a favor that somebody allowed us to shoot at. The majority of it being my apartment, and then the underwater scene. Yeah, we got a underwater DP who rented some equipment with the camera in the case, and that was actually tricky. That might have been one of the most challenging things, was just getting the right shot for that. And another example,
it's so
like Greg.
hard. Greg, it was also really, you see those shots in movies, but that's actually a really hard shot to get, because you need weights, you need the right weights, you need to be able to have it was hard to stay down it was hard to stay down below the water in the right way for the right amount of time to get the shot. It was just an interesting sort of like science experiment almost.
Yeah, totally. And we have I think we did 2 days of that, actually. That gives you an example. We did 14 days of shooting, and then 2 of them were literally to get, how much of that is in there? Yeah, like literally 5 seconds of the movie. Yeah, that's no easy feat. So hats off to all underwater DPs. And Graham, once again, he probably was deprived of oxygen that night after being underwater all day. So just another example of Graham being a trooper.
It's fun.
So what was this film primarily filmed with? Because I know you talked about, the look of the film and, shooting stuff originally, with your using, scarce on your budgets and everything. So I'm curious what was used for filming this.
It was a GH4 and GH7, and then I think Panasonic GH4, GH7, but we just didn't have which is a fine camera, we just didn't have a huge set of lenses and all that kind of stuff. Nor do we have time to really get super creative with the shots, and we didn't have any steady cams or dollies.
My heart goes out to you on that.
Yeah, no tools like that. But again, at the same time, I love the locked off look at the film, because for whatever reason, it just feels like Greg's world. So that's an example of where, even though you don't have the resources, it could still work. Panasonic, I believe it's a Panasonic GH4, GH7, and then I think we had a GoPro one day for underwater, but I think the stuff we kept was actually GH4 in a case.
I mean, I think that just goes to show, just, as much as people love talking about gear, I'm a gearhead and filmmaker myself, but so much of it comes down to, the script, the actors, and the story, and it's, gear does play a part, but a lot of times, I mean, I know a lot of people agree with me, some people disagree, but people a lot of times they focus too much on the gear and not enough on the script and the story and the characters.
Yeah, Graham, you can speak this after, but I'm all about character and dialogue, and I love, and for my next film, when I actually have more resources, I'm definitely going to focus a lot more on the look of the film and getting creative with the camera and all that. But for me, I just love character and dialogue. That's just what I gravitate towards, and I think that's the reason why people, look at sitcoms like Friends and stuff. There's nothing fancy about that, but people love it just because with comedy, you don't need all that. You don't need to get super fancy and creative with the camera. I mean, that's great and all, but you could still, achieve the goal without getting super flashy.
I think also another interesting. It's interesting because I think I've done a lot of independent films with first-time filmmakers, and many times they are focused on making sure that it looks great and that the camera's all set up. And the last thing they're thinking about, literally the last thing they're thinking about, is the performance.
Yeah.
And I think that when directors shift their mindset a little bit and put some effort towards, directing, I think that their product becomes exponentially better. And I think also, just to all the filmmakers out there, like, as an actor, we want direction. We want to be collaborating with you. And I feel like sometimes directors, they feel like there's like a weird power thing, like they should know how to do what they want and how to get it, and we all don't know how to get it. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to be open to, you have to be specific with your vision, give us a box, and allow us to kind of play inside of it. And then I think you're going to be able to get some really great things. But if you just sort of hands off and just like, it's the last thing, we got 2 takes, and just do it differently, well, you're not going to get anything. You need to be specific with what you want inside that box. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think there is this weird thing about, like, when you walk onto a set, like, they're like, people, I think, feel like they have to know everything, so that just creates a weird, like, insecurity, but people are trying to overcompensate, and then, like,
right.
And, like, this power, I'll steal from Tarantino, who, I saw him say that, like, he was always like, oh my God, how do you direct a movie? What's the magic behind it? Like, and then a director told him, literally surround yourself with people who are great at what they do, and just explain what you want, and, like, work with them in finding out what that is. Because a lot of times you have an idea, but a lot of times that's going to change, and there's no real, and that's it. Like, there's no real magic to it. And, for this, it was just working with, as Graham said, I wrote the script, but then I would work with the actors on, literally, like, go through the script on the lines, and, like, alt lines we would come up with, and just it's just got to be a total fun, safe collaboration, and just shed this whole, like, thing of, like, well, I'm a director, so I need to know everything, and don't look me in the eyes. You know what I mean? Like, it should be a very safe, fun, collaborative space, and that's how our set was, and I hope will always be sets I work on going forward.
Absolutely, yeah. Get the people who love what they do, know what they're doing, and then work with them to get the best product.
Yeah, and aren't afraid to try things and fail, and, like, it's all just, trying to create something.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us at JeanBookNerd. Any final thoughts or comments before we finish this up?
Grandma Lamb?
I hope everybody can go out and try to see this movie. We've worked really hard on it, and it deserves to be seen. I think anybody out there who's gone through a breakup or has tried to make an independent film will try to find. I'm sure that they can relate to this, and they can see how really pretty remarkable the final product is for what we had, and how unique it is, how unique the film is. So I really hope people can go out and see it.
Yeah, I think ironically couldn't have come out at a better time with everything that's going on in the world and being trapped in, and it just being a very heavy time. I think it'll be a good escape for people to be able to relate to it, but also laugh. So, I highly, highly recommend checking it out and seeing Graham, aka Greg, nude, face down, slurping beer.
Where can
Lonely, desperate, and pathetic.
It's basically a documentary. It was a year in the life, or 5 years in the life of Graham
He
Sibley.
actually approached me and he said, Graham, what do you think about poor Graham drowning?
I did.
I said, can we just change like maybe just a couple of letters?
Exactly.
How about Greg?
Yeah.
So if our listeners do want to see this film, where is it available for them to check it out?
So if you go to at Poor Greg Drowning on Instagram, and then we also have a Facebook page at Poor Greg Drowning. There's a link for a Apple TV iTunes pre-order link. It'll be coming out on August 11th. So that's where you can buy it now. And then on August 11th, it'll be on a bunch of different platforms around the world. But I highly recommend going to check it out now and getting that pre-order link because, damn, that way you're ready when it comes out.
Absolutely. And I know, Graham, you kind of already touched on this, but I'll ask you both anyway before we, to kind of finish this off. What advice would you have for up-and-coming either filmmakers, directors, or actors that you think, could really, really help people who are trying to break into the industry?
I think just say yes to everything until you can't. At some point, there will be a journey in your creative endeavors where you won't need to do that again. You've done that, but until then, just get out there and try to perform wherever you can, and study on your own, and just do it. Just do it. That's
well
my
said.
advice.
That's well said.
All right. Well, if it goes the same for you, Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us at JeanBookNerd. We really appreciate it. Again, for our listeners, I have seen the film. I definitely highly recommend it. It was very enjoyable, very funny to watch. So anyone who gets a chance to see it should definitely see this film.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Have you ever interviewed people and then at that moment right there just been like, guys, I've had the chance to see it. Do not watch this movie while you're like on the podcast interview? And it was like super awkward afterward, or is no, I'm kidding.
No, actually, so far I've been fortunate. I work with Jean at JeanBookNerd, and all the short films and feature films and everything I've seen, they've all been very good. I have yet to come across a short film or anything that I saw and I was like, oh my gosh, this was terrible. Like, I can't believe I just had to watch this.
That would have been amazing, though. You're like, hey guys, had an opportunity to see this. Wow, is it dog shit? Do not watch this film.
No, I'm honest. If I ever came across something like that and we were gonna have a podcast, I'd probably be like, I'd probably try to find a way to coax it and get interesting. But no, luckily I've been fortunate. All the podcasts I have done, all the short films that I've watched and feature films, they've all been really good. I will say not all of them have been, exactly up my alley of like, oh, this was my favorite film ever. Like, this is my genre. I love this. But everything I've watched, I've enjoyed. I will say that.
Okay. Just checking.
Perfect person for this job.
Yeah.
I try. Like I said, I'm also an independent filmmaker, but I also try to do every job to the best of my abilities, and doing my research and and learning as much as I can. And I love having the guests on and talking to other filmmakers. We have authors. I just love learning from other people and hearing about their experiences too. It's really fun.
No, well, thank you very much for having us on. I love what you guys do, and yeah, let's all grab a coffee when we're allowed to after this. I'd love to hear the kind of stuff you're working on.
But Jean, I have one question for you. After seeing Poor Greg Drowning, what did you learn about your life?
Let's see here. Well, you'll have to ask Jean that herself because I am not Jean. So.
Oh, well, okay. Well, so wait, I thought you were Jean.
No, I'm Erik. My name's Erik. I just do the interviews for Jean.
We'll have to do this whole thing over again.
The one thing I will say that I really enjoyed about this film and kind of like my takeaway is that, let me see how I can put this into words without sounding rambling too much myself, is that everything will get better. Nothing is, permanent. Nothing is, as bad as things might seem at certain points in your life. And I know I've run into things in relationships before where I've been like, oh my gosh, it's felt like this is the end for me. I'm never going to, find someone I care about, or I'm never going to get that, my dream job or anything. It hurts. And, it's going to take time to heal and get over it. But you got to keep pushing forward, keep living your life. Don't ever let anything, kind of pull you down permanently, and keep working towards it, and things will get better. And who knows, like the saying is, when one door closes, another one opens, and you never know what opportunity might come your way when you least expect it.
Erik, if you could just go ahead and email that to me so I can use that, copy and paste that into this interview I'm doing, that would be fun.
That's really good.
Yeah, god damn it.
That was really good, man.
And you asked Graham what this movie was to him, and he said it's a romantic comedy. And then frickin' Erik delivers a goddamn spot-on speech as to what this movie means. I mean, that was brilliant.
It really was. It was really good. And actually, when you started talking about that, I started thinking about all those chapters in my life, and I was like, God, that is this movie. God, I've gone through this so many times.
Well, like I said, that's what I've gotten. I have felt like, what Greg goes through. I have felt that way. Not a ton of times, luckily, but I have felt that way once or twice in my life. And looking back, it's actually funny, looking back, all those experiences that were like that I went through, I actually wouldn't change it because I love where I'm at in my life right now. And if I changed any of those experiences, I may not be where I am right now.
Now he's just boasting. Now Erik's just boasting, and this is getting out of control.
We're gonna do a sequel like 25 years later, with Greg, and it's
Greg and Erik.
Greg and Erik,
exactly. Go fishing.
All right. Well, it was an absolute pleasure to talk with you both today. So
thank
you so much.
Yes,
thank you, Erik.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
I think everyone should see this film because so many of us can relate to it. We've all had low points in our lives, even if not for the same reasons. This film really connects with people, and we can all see a little bit of ourselves in this film. Thank you to our guests for speaking with us today, and we'll be back for another episode of the podcast real soon. Any final words for our listeners, Jeff or Graham?
My name is Graham Sibley, and I play Greg in the new romantic comedy, Poor Greg Drowning.
My name is Jeff Collins, and I'm the writer, director, and producer on Poor Greg Drowning. And you are listening to
JeanBookNerd.com.